This podcast is part of the Game and Entertainment Network. Visit tgenetwork.net to find the latest episodes from all our shows.
It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Agronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 104. And tonight, I'm joined by Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Good evening.
Kodra.
Praise the sun.
Tam.
Hello.
And Thalen.
Hey there.
I didn't take a big enough breath. I was going to see how long I could do that for.
You could have held it probably for a while.
I probably could have. I was going to hold it until you stopped me, and then I, coughed. Also,
what the hell? I just said holded it. Anyway.
We're professionals.
Grammar is good.
This is for anybody who doesn't believe that we do almost no editing on these shows, FYI.
Yeah, no, I'm leaving all this in. Okay, so Ash, you played a game that I also played at Pax South, Stories, Path of Destinies.
Stories, the Path of Destinies. A game that really, really, really needed to have a better name.
Oh, it was a horrible name.
It's, I guess, not as bad as Divine Divinity.
It's fair.
I felt sorry for this game at PAX South because, this was the game that nobody was really playing.
It was off in a corner, and yeah.
Well, okay, so it was off in a corner. The game has a lot of voiceover narration, and the speakers weren't hooked up in the booth. So you had to... Yeah, you just had to, wait out a lot of cutscenes, and the game really liked cutscenes.
That sounds like it would not show well at...
No, it didn't. But it was really fun. Once you actually got into the game.
Play it, but yeah, it didn't show great. And it's showing questionably now that it's out too. So oh well. But the game is actually really cool. It's a choose your own adventure book of sorts. Well, I say of sorts. Mostly it's choose your own adventure book with gameplay in between.
What's the story?
You play as a fox named Renardo, trying to help out the rebellion against the Empire.
Wait, what?
There's a rebellion. You're a part of it. There's an empire. He's evil and trying to resurrect the lost gods.
Huh. You're totally a sweet fox. All right.
Yes. Everyone is an anthropomorphic animal.
Yes. And from there, what happens really sort of depends on what you do in the game. Although probably it's going to end with your death. Renardo is not the best hero, really. And you get a lot of opportunities to make decisions, and in sort of true choose-your-own-adventure book fashion, a lot of these decisions are not going to end well for you. I do find it a little... It's not quite, haha, you messed up, game over, try again, even though it sort of is. If you mess up and get to an ending where you die, and your first several times around you can't help but do this, you will learn a truth, and this truth will open up other choices to you. And
So it's a game that relies on save scumming.
Basically, yes.
Basically, which I think is really cool.
That's really interesting.
The fact that you've been talking so highly about this game all week got me to buy it, despite the fact that it's a game about anthropomorphic animals. It looks really neat. The art style is great, too.
But it's gorgeous. The game itself, inside of the game, is just gorgeous. It's
Unreal Engine 4. The dash particle effect is apparently a stock UE4 particle effect that I didn't know until Total Biscuit pointed it out. So we'll probably be seeing that one a whole bunch more in other games. It's really pretty. The combat system is... I don't know if it's interesting enough for the length of the game, but it is interesting at first. It relies heavily on counterattacks. Sort of like Assassin's Creed 1 or the Arkham series. And the game will eventually try to help you get to a better ending than the one you have if you mess up in the same way more than once.
Huh, interesting.
Is the combat still as animation locked as it was when we played it at PAX South?
It is. It really is. Your attacks are very animation locked, but your dash can interrupt anything and your counter can interrupt really, really anything. So using those can make you a lot more mobile and less likely to get stabbed in the back, which is normally a problem when you have a heavy animation lock on your attacks.
Right.
Yep. And no invincibility frames during it?
No invincibility frames. Your dash can eventually do damage to and stun enemies, though, so you don't really need invincibility frames when you can interrupt anyone rushing toward you with that.
I remember the biggest problem that I had was trying to arrange myself in such a way as not to have bad guys at my back, so that if I opened into combat, I wasn't, like, vulnerable.
My biggest problem actually ended up being when I had multiple enemies on one, like when I was not surrounded. So if, like, two enemies tried to attack me from the same side, I was in more trouble than if two enemies tried to attack me from different sides.
Yeah, because I kind of remember it bouncing back and forth between two mobs a lot.
Right, that's a situation that comes up a lot, and it's fairly easy to handle. Two enemies next to each other that both want to murder you, that's a little harder, which is really weird. But I think it's part of the top-down perspective thing. But I've actually found it a really fun game, and it really has not had nearly as much attention as I think it deserves.
I thought it was a
Marketing
really cool
is-
game, but it shows poor because it requires a lot out of the player to really invest into the game to see what it's doing. And by the same token, I think the whole anthropomorphic animal thing is a double-edged sword. Like, for some people, it's probably a big positive, and other people, it's a big negative.
It seems to be more of a turn-off nowadays.
So is the story good? Like, with a game like this, that's sort of what it's hinging on, I think.
The story is good. The narration is what makes it, honestly. It's read sort of like an audiobook. There is only one voice, and it's the narrator.
Oh, cool.
He will occasionally do different voices for different characters.
How is this narrator compared to, say, Bastion's
He's
narrator?
not quite, he's not Logan Cunningham.
Sure.
But he's not bad either.
I mean, that is sort of the narrator that all narrators are going to get compared to now, I think.
Yeah.
He is now the gold standard, yes. And this
For a
game is
very
trying
good
to
reason.
do that. It does narrate some odd random things you do, much like Bastion did.
I would honestly say it's more akin to the quality of narration in Little Big Planet.
I never played that one.
The first game had really good narration, and then it kind of went downhill. Well,
I
the first
played
game
the
also had
third one.
Stephen Fry as a narrator.
I played the third one recently, and it's pretty good too. Or at least it was equal parts cute and charming, so it worked. What's the retail price for the game right now?
$14.99.
I think it's $15.
Yeah, $15. I just bought it.
And is it Steam and PlayStation and whatever?
It's Steam and PS4 at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, because I know that the demo copy I played at Pax South was on a PS4.
The PC version supports mouse and keyboard, although it really recommends a controller, and has appropriate button prompts for both Xbox and PlayStation buttons.
And honestly, like, that was one of the things that's made the game stand out to me, is the fact that it was sitting at PAX South and it was already playing on a PS4, not a PC. So they were pretty far
really
along
not
in the
Gallo
process.
show floor demos.
Like, you expect it to be on a PC. Anyway, so this is a horrible segue since we were talking about stories, tales of Destiny, and I have some more discussion relating to Destiny. So there, inside of Destiny, there is a community type thing where people refer to themselves as Sherpas. And the idea is, just like the Sherpas, guide people up Mount Everest, there's a chunk of the community that, like, spends a lot of their time guiding players through puzzles or any of the non-straightforward content in this game. And while I'm in a clan right now, there are a lot of people in that clan that are basically playing that role, and we have a thing called the Rookie Raid. And the purpose of that is that, for somebody who's never done the King's Fall raid, to come along and they'll show you where you need to go and guide you to the various calcified fragments, which are the hard to find collectibles in there, teach you how to do the jumping puzzles. And it got me looking into the Sherpa concept as a whole, and, like, there's Reddit discussion boards devoted to people signing up and saying, I need help with this, and someone will volunteer and lead them through. And right now, it's a lot more active on the PS4 side of things than the Xbox Live side of things. But I had essentially an encounter this was with my clan, but I needed to do this mission called Paradox, which is a weekly heroic, and it's only up every so often. And if you find all of the ghost shells inside of that mission, it unlocks another quest chain. So I had been sitting on it for a while, and finally got some help. And this guildie helped me and Saga through this horrible maze that I never would have found my way through because it was off the beaten path, to find all of these hidden relics. And it was really cool. And I've noticed that people do this just in random dungeons, which is, strikes in this game. And honestly, the only other community that I've seen do this sort of thing is Final Fantasy XIV. And I thought it was interesting how this is an FPS, and it has a really strangely pro community focus among the players.
So I know how Final Fantasy gets players to do it, but what are the rewards like if you are a higher level player helping somebody in a random strike?
There's no reward. That's what makes it more interesting. Final Fantasy XIV absolutely bribes players to be nice.
Well, it bribes players to play with other players. It doesn't actually bribe them to be nice.
So there are rewards for doing strikes. There are rewards for doing these things. There is a reason why these players are in the content in the first place. But there's absolutely no benefit to helping someone through and showing them where if you blow this panel, you can go down into this ductwork and get a lore item. It'd be the equivalent of lore items in Star Wars The Old Republic and World of Warcraft. If people went out of their way to show those to people. And I've not really encountered it in any other game where people are they're happy to take a moment and guide people through the process. And it's really evident in the raid, because there's some horrible puzzles in the raid. There's the very first one that you encounter just a little ways into the raid is this ship puzzle, where there are ships flying across a chasm, and every so often the ship disappears and you have to jump to another ship. And throughout the course of crossing this chasm, you have to have jumped between 12 different ships. And it's a really long process. So, Friday night I was doing a raid, and we were kind of helping people through. And it's interesting to me because I've transitioned from being the complete rookie to where now I'm actually sort of helpful a little bit. I can help people that don't know the ropes yet, or where they need to stand for this, or how to do this encounter. And it just seems cool that this is totally unofficial. This is nothing Bungie did, but this whole concept of a Destinies Sherpa has built into the community to where if you use any of the unofficial grouping tools, because Destiny doesn't have, other than randoming strikes, it doesn't have any group finder type functionality that allows you to build a group and then add people to that group or have them sign up for it. So there's all these third-party tools that have come in and added this functionality, and one of them is, I need a Sherpa for this mission. And just in talking to people, apparently it's something that, you can actually get reasonably. If you need a run through this mission, not a carry necessarily, but to be shown the ropes, people seem to be more than happy to do it, to teach new players how to get through the content.
How do the unofficial group finder tools work? That's an interesting.
They're basically mobile and web-based clients, and they involve, this is my PSN ID, and I need a run of King's Fall, and the person that's leading the group will invite that person from their PSN ID, and since party chat is a thing, you don't have to worry about it changing voice servers or anything like that. There's just all this concept that's been built up around to satisfy the shortcomings of the game. But I just thought it was interesting because, unlike Final Fantasy XIV, there's really no big benefit to the player that's running people through.
People just like doing community stuff?
Apparently, yeah. But because of it, the thing that I've noticed is people don't abandon on wipes as much as you would expect from a normal MMO experience. I was running Prison of Elders, which was one of the new items that went back into the game. where you basically have 4 waves of different kinds of mobs, and then you have a boss at the end. And there are like 3 sub waves within each wave. And we absolutely wiped a couple times, and folks just stuck it through and kept going until we finally beat it. And I was expecting at any moment that people would start dropping like they do in a traditional MMO, but no, people were just happy to keep plugging away.
Of all the things that you've said about this game, like, this is the one thing that actually makes me interested in playing it.
It's weird. Like, it's unlike any shooter I've ever played. Like, I expected it to be horrible teabagginess shooter, but the community that's built up around it is actually really cool. And it kind of makes me sad because, like, in the short time I've played Division, that community was like the polar opposite. And I think the difference is like the whole Dark Zone Gone Rogue concept creates this adversarial relationship between players, whereas the PvP in Destiny is all based on arena combat. It's like 3v3 or 6v6 or free-for-all, but this is a match. We are playing a match, not everyone for themselves. And I am constantly getting random friend invites to go do content or help out with this, and there's all these weird little social customs that have spawned up. Like, there's an area on the Dreadnought called the Court of Oryx, where you can collect these items that allow you to summon bosses. And you can go there at pretty much any time, and if you just hang out long enough, people will see that someone is at Court of Oryx and will go over there. And without any communication or without any formal grouping, you can all work together and take down some bosses for a while. And I've done that so many times. Like, and there's like this custom to shoot at the target that you're going to spawn. And everyone does it. Like, I don't know who figured out this thing. There are basically 3 pillars, and putting a runestone-like thing on the pillar summons a tier 1, 2, or 3 boss. But players will shoot at the target to warn everyone that I'm going to summon a 3 or I'm going to summon a 2. And there's just weird little customs that have sprung up, and everyone does them.
Makes me think of, I forget the name of the dungeon in FF14, but where everybody always goes right, and you can totally throw your group off by going left.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that. People just get really used to like doing things a particular way.
Well, or Karner's Castle in EverQuest, everyone.
God. Okay, yes, sure.
Yeah, like, I mean, that was very server dependent. Like, some trained left, some trained right.
I'm pretty sure that's just like I think at that point it's just like cultish superstition.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in EQ.
But there's all these weird little things that have happened to facilitate play without actually needing to talk to each other. And like, the coolest thing is there's an achievement that you have to sit in this cave for 2 minutes and get a buff, and then run across the chasm and do this jumping puzzle. And the platforms are invisible. And if you summon your ghost, it will decloak the platform while your ghost is out. So normally when you encounter one of these, you basically ease your way across the platform. So you land on the next platform, summon the ghost, see where the next platform is, jump to it. But I've seen this several times. If someone is working on the achievement, which is to get the scent of the worm and then run across the chasm before the scent of the worm fades, so that you can open a chest and get basically the last calcified fragment that anyone ever needs, because that's the one that always gets saved for last. Players will go out into the chasm and stand on the platforms so that the platforms won't uncloak, so that the player that is trying to get the achievement can just jump from platform to platform without summoning their ghost. And I've seen this spontaneously happen, and I've gone out on the platforms just to stand to let somebody through. And like, I don't know why it happens, but occasionally it'll just happen. Like, you'll see somebody trying over and over, and you can see anytime somebody dies. And this is like a public area. So after 3 or 4 deaths, I think people just like, okay, let's go help this person out. But anyway, like, it's this weird culture that's evolved, and they formally call it Sherpaing, which hopefully the actual Sherpa culture doesn't take offense to, but
I don't think that actual Sherpas play a lot of video games.
probably not.
Just like throwing that out there.
But anyway, that was the discussion I wanted to have. I wanted to share this concept.
That's really cool. That's actually, like, it's interesting. I should actually give this game another shot.
You should. You really should.
I bounced off really hard, but, well, I also bounced off of other games really hard and came to love them immensely. That's a common theme for me, actually.
Well, like, I bounced off initially, and I kind of sort of played it off and on, but I really didn't. Like, it didn't click for me until the Taken King quality of life changes, and then this last patch really made a huge difference with the whole 1-to-1 infusion levels. And so that has been massive in helping me get my light level up. And honestly, like, there's a lot of content where your light level doesn't matter. Like, strikes technically scale you down to a specific point. Crucible PvP, other than Iron Banner and Trials of Osiris, scale you down to, like, the minimum level it takes to do PvP. And because of that, there's some weird meta going on where, like, a lot of the year 1 weapons that are no longer in year 2 are still valid and you can still use them, but it's interesting. There's a lot of improvement that has happened since we first played. And speaking of games that you haven't bounced away from, tell me about Eterna, Kodra.
So Eterna is a game about folding the way RNA folds together. And this is, so did you guys ever hear about Fold It?
Yes.
Okay. It's the protein, it's like, the idea is computers are not actually good at figuring out how protein folds together. It's a very hard computational problem to solve. But it's kind of like a puzzle, and so there was a game that was developed to fold proteins, and a couple of players figured it out. And players were able to fold a whole bunch of proteins and really help that area of science. The same is now being done for RNA, because they want to be able to synthesize a whole bunch of different types of RNA for medical treatments. But what was interesting about Eterna and what got me to start playing it was apparently there were a couple of players who played it enough that they started noticing patterns and actually had a scientific article written and published in a scientific journal based on their findings from playing this game.
I saw a little footnote about that last week.
Yeah, so it's actually kind of really fun to play, though. So you basically have 4 different types of RNA that bind together in specific ways. And you have this long string that you need to fill in the RNA such that they attract to each other to form the desired pattern. And it is yet another nice, simple puzzle game that I can play to try and take my mind off of things, only this time maybe I will help the world out in a little way. Folding it reminds me of the other puzzle games I've been playing recently, like Hexels and Mini Metro. It's actually very good at that.
Well, and the side benefit is also, the hook.
Yeah, it's a really cool hook to playing this game, and I mean, it's really funny because there's this community that has formed around this game, and they have come up with a whole bunch of new terminology that they use in Eterna, and sometimes they'll be like, Eterna players refer to this process as sliding. The scientific community refers to it as slipping. It's a lot of cool things you can learn, and it's very fun. I'm having a lot of fun. It's a nice diversion game. And it's free to play. I highly recommend you check it out. You can play it on a browser.
That's kind of awesome. Is it on mobile platforms yet?
I actually am not sure about that. I've only played it in the browser so far. They've also, very PopCap-esque. Like, they know how to gamify this, so, like, when you solve a puzzle, there's a fun little sound plays, and there's a cool graphic, yeah. It has that PopCap-esque, you want to keep playing this game thing to it.
Man, I love PopCap games. They're great, but I don't know how they managed to do things in a way that made me not feel like I was being, just strung along. And so many other mobile games don't do that thing. And I don't know how to quantify it. It's just like my bounce rate of mobile games is pretty high. But I used to be able to play Bejeweled or, Suma or what was the
Peggle.
Yeah, Peggle.
I play Peggle right before bed all the time, and it's so nice.
But like I used to play those games a lot, and they had something about them that so many other mobile clicky puzzle type games don't quite get.
But yeah, and I think Eterna kind of has it. When I beat a level, I want to go to the next one. It's like, yay, I did that. Now it's time to do the next one. Just keep playing, Brian.
I think that's a sign of a really good game.
Yeah, in addition to being a cool scientific tool, I think it is very well designed, and I'm curious about the evolution of it, because from what I've heard, most of like the entry to the game is new. Like, it was based on player feedback. Well, one of the reasons why the paper was written was because players wanted to know how hard, like, what level am I on? Because the game was just doing was like giving you a random RNA to fold, and they didn't like, that wasn't satisfying. They wanted to know, how hard is this RNA? So they started trying to classify what makes an RNA hard to solve. And what they discovered was the same thing that makes RNA hard to solve in the game makes it hard to synthesize in a lab. And so then they gave their advice on how to solve those hard RNA problems, and that's where the paper came in.
Well, that makes sense, though, because like players want to know that they're progressing, and they don't want difficulty to be uneven to where, this one was just a throwaway, but this next one, took forever to solve. And then you're back to another throwaway easy one.
Yeah, exactly.
Which to some extent segues us into another discussion on level design.
So this came up because I've finished Dark Souls. I had been playing Dark Souls for a while. I beat it and jumped immediately into Dark Souls 3. And while, yes, they have very similar mechanics, they do not feel very similar at all. And the level design that I'm looking at is sort of, it reminds me of sort of the difference between the overall level design and, like, I think of World of Warcraft, where you had these big sprawling continents that you would go and adventure in. And while there were zones, those zones were connected to the other zones in very organic ways. Like, there were they were porous. And that's sort of how Dark Souls 1 was. And Dark Souls 3 is very much here is a zone, beat this zone, go to the next zone, like, pass through this one entry point into this next zone, and keep on doing that. And that's sort of what I see in a lot of other MMOs is all of the zones are just static levels. And the interconnectivity of levels is something I imagine it's very hard to do, but when it's done, I find it very satisfying because I feel like I'm playing in a single world rather than a series of levels.
Well, and I think that's also along the lines of the difference between a traditional, say, Mario, Mario is maybe a bad concept because now there are multiple branching paths through the zones. But like in a traditional...
Which Mario game are you looking at here?
Yeah,
the first one or Mario 64?
Well, I'm looking at Mario 1 in this case for the example is the traditional, Zone 1, Zone 1, 2, Zone 1, 3, until you finally reach the end of the zones versus, say, a Metroidvania game where you may be sitting right beside the final area, but you lack the ability to get into it because of some ability.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, Super Metroid was really cool. There were a couple of zone transitions, but for the most part it was a single contiguous, area. I guess every screen had a zone transition now that I think about it, but it didn't feel like that because I could see how everything was interconnecting.
Well, and the same is true with like a Legend of Zelda game, or you can see this is an area that I need to go to eventually, but I lack the ability to do this because I'm missing X item.
I've always it's interesting because for all that people love Metroidvanias, and especially Metroid with the here's all of these things that frequently you can easily see but you can't actually get into yet. That makes me crazy. I hate it. Like, trying to keep track of all of the places that I saw but couldn't get into, it's like, I guess I gotta get some paper out and mark down all the places I haven't been yet so I make sure I cover everything. But fundamentally, it makes me think of Thief, which I think has some of the finest level design ever, which has that same, this is a contiguous space, and you can kind of imagine how it all goes together, and you can use your understanding of how, because it goes together in a way that seems reasonable, you can use your understanding of, physical space to navigate. You're like, oh, okay, I'm on the outside of this building, I know that the thing that I want to steal is in this room that's on the other side of this wall, but is there a window?
Yeah.
Or you hop up on the roof and go into a trapdoor or stuff like that because the space makes sense. It feels like
it feels like the paths are numerous. You have lots of options to how to get from one place to another.
Yeah. And that's actually what I don't like about Metroidvanias, is because they pretend like you have got a bunch of options, but you really don't. They're really linear. They're it's just a scribble line rather than a straight line.
Yeah.
and
it's really funny you say that because time has shown that is not true. There is the suggested path, and then there's the paths you can actually take if you know what's going on.
Sure.
Well, it's the whole thing that happens with Mega Man games. It's there's the clear path, but there are absolutely multiple ways to beat this. You just have to know how to go get the item that you actually want.
Less than that, really. A lot of Metroid games have... they tend to reward you for getting 100%, or also reward you for getting, under 20%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sequence breaking.
Yeah. Figuring out how to get a certain place without the ability you're supposed to have to get in there.
And what I really like about level design I sort of see it as two different types of level design. It's one has a whole bunch of locked doors that you kind of work your way towards unlocking to give yourself freedom as you move. And another one gives you total freedom, and it's just it's how do you approach it? But you don't need to know anything special, you just have to go with what makes sense. So like Thief and Hitman are games with that kind of level design that I really love, because if you put two different people in front of them, you'll see them hair off in completely different directions, and it'll probably work out reasonably well for both of them.
While I didn't play either of those, the game I think of when you say that is Deus Ex.
Deus Ex is very similar. Dishonored is very similar. And I really love those. It's there's nothing stopping you from going this way other than thinking about it.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, I noticed that there's a ladder here. I can climb up this ladder, and suddenly I've got this whole different traversal option.
Well, and for a game like Dishonored, what was great about it was really good at messaging when there is, honest to God, a place you can't go.
Yes.
It gave you a reason. This building is crumbled. Okay, I can't go in there. It's not just, this is a locked door. This door will never be unlocked. It's just locked now.
Yeah,
this door is barred, or this door has a cart in front of it, or
you have to go across this bridge because there's a river. There's a huge river, so yeah, you're funneled across this bridge.
Yeah, that's That is probably also my favorite form of level design. There are many ways to approach a single problem, and I feel like I should play Dishonored, because if that's that...
You haven't played Dishonored?
I bounced off of that one too, and I don't remember why. As I said, it might end up being one of my favorite games ever, because as we've clearly seen, I can play a game once, not enjoy it, and then come back to it in a couple of years and have a really good time with it.
Dishonored is the only quote-unquote stealth game I have ever successfully made it through.
Dishonored is the... I mean, it's not really a surprise to anybody at all that I like Dishonored.
Sequel coming out this year or next year?
I don't know. I need to follow up on that.
It was announced last year at E3, so probably another year.
Probably. So looking forward to it, though. It looks awesome. It makes me miss... It's a thing that I really miss from MMOs, honestly. So you remember, like, Bell, you probably remember... That was what EQ did. That's what a lot of the pre-WoW MMOs did with their dungeons, was there were a ton of different ways to approach them.
Well, they built a city. Like, they treated their dungeons as though they were a functional city for this faction.
They were a space, not a set piece.
I feel like WoW had a couple of those.
Blackrock Depths.
2 of those.
I think WoW had 2 of those, and one of them was bad.
I liked both of them.
I loved Blackrock Depths.
Wait, are we talking about Blackrock Depths and Blackrock Spire, or are we talking about... Cause
the Sunken Temple is the other one.
Sunken Temple and Blackrock Depths. Sunken Temple and Blackrock Depths. Both Upper and Lower Spire were totally linear.
Sure.
You made a choice at the very beginning which line you were going to take.
I guess
I kind of feel like Sulfurek also qualifies.
Yeah, it had an optional split. Like there was
20-man raid, troll raid.
Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah, I'd give Zul'Farrak.
No, Zul'Farrak Zul'Farrak was the early dungeon.
Sorry, that was
level 40 dungeon, troll dungeon. Yes.
Oh yeah. It had the path.
Confusing that with Zul'Gurub.
Yeah, Zul'Gurub was the raid,
which I think also sort of qualifies.
Which was also kind of like that.
It was kind of like that.
I mean, it had optional paths.
I mean, yes, we only did them in a linear fashion, but Scholomance, Stratholme, and Blackrock Spire
Scholomance was totally linear.
Is actually pretty linear.
Scholomance is totally linear.
Stratholme
is like
also,
Blackrock Spire has 2 paths.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I mean, Blackrock Depths is also like 4 lines, but they're all linear.
Right, and you can get to all of them from any one of them.
Yeah.
But all of these places feel like places.
Yes.
Even if they are, potentially have a narrow number of paths, they still feel like lived-in places.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's the important thing.
This is exactly the reason why I kept going back and playing EverQuest 2, even though it had a Collegiate combat system and the graphics weren't that great. It's because when you went into a dungeon, it was a place, like it was a functional place. If you went into the kitchen, there was a cook, there was a sous chef, there was like a goblin sous chef. If you go into the jail, there was a jailer. Like, it fit, it made sense. Like, this was a place that this group of people actually functioned in. And I feel like, to some extent, there maybe were a couple of cases of that in WoW, but WoW ushered in this era of
snakes eating melons.
This is a ride. Like, you are on a ride until you finish. And it was cool. Like, there was stuff you could do with that mentality of scripted event leads to scripted event leads to scripted event leads to scripted event. But it missed something. There wasn't a realness to it.
Yeah, you can tell such a better story in that space because you don't have to be you don't have to worry about all the different ways players can approach it. But because you're not worrying about all the different ways players can approach it, players aren't free. There's no freedom to it.
And I think like the real deciding factor is that if you're going to do the ride, you can tell a story. You can lead players through a story. When you do this is a real place and you can explore it at your leisure and at your own pace, you have to leave clues for players to find on their own. and let them learn about the story through books or scrolls or conversation overheard and piece it together, but you can't really have a driven story in these real spaces that you could explore at your own pace.
Yeah. And to some extent, it takes a lot of the fear out of it. Because, like, in a WoW dungeon, I'm never afraid of what's going to happen next. Because I know that where I am is exactly where I need to be. And the next thing that's going to happen is the next thing that's supposed to happen in the chain. Whereas, like, I wander into Befallen, and if I don't know it very well, I could turn a corner and something could be really bad. Or like, oh, whoops, I've created a giant train.
I accidentally fell down the well. Oh god, why am I down here? There's nowhere out, and everything down here wants to eat me. I used to go farm skeleton Elrod, and if you screwed up, you could accidentally fall in the well, and yeah, it was basically a corpse recovery. But anyway, like, so the interesting thing is that we touched on some kind of themes that it seems like a lot of games have. Which almost makes me wonder if, good design is just universal.
There's definitely, like, tenets of good design that are sort of true no matter what, even across genres. Like, everything we just said about level design applies to racing games. And, like, nobody thinks about it because you're like, oh, it's a track, you drive around the track. But, like really good racing games, like Mario Kart, like, later Need for Speeds, like, all of those, there's, like, interesting alternate paths and multiple ways to take it, and it's not just a ride, always.
Well, and I think a lot of it is messaging well. Like, if you are going to do something, you have to tell the players that it exists. Somehow. So I think we've covered that. So last week we mentioned a concept of whether or not we thought there were a higher percentage of good movies for Star Wars to bad movies for Star Wars than there was games that were good to bad.
There are a lot of Star Wars games. Also, there's a lot of probably me getting yelled at by people coming up here.
I know what you're about to say, so let's just get it over with.
My argument is that there are 3 good Star Wars movies, 3 bad ones, and 1 probably not great one.
And this is where the fighting starts.
And also 2 Ewok movies.
This is just the main series.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen any of those Ewok movies.
I loved them as a kid, and they're pretty bad.
Yeah, they're horrible, but I loved them as a kid. Like, I looked forward to them as a kid. They were movie of the week type moments where they played them on a Saturday or Sunday night or whatever. Like, where you would basically play a mini-series, they played the movie.
Yeah. Now, I will say that if we're going to say that Star Wars movies with good scenes are good Star Wars movies, that's a very different thing. And there's like 5 good Star Wars movies and 2 bad ones.
No, I don't think that counts.
But like,
as much fun it is to watch Yoda bounce around, Attack of the Clones is not a good movie.
Yeah. I mean, I would argue that every Star Wars movie has at least 1 good scene.
I think you could make a pretty reasonable argument.
All right, so
And 2 Ewoks movies.
So we've been beating it around.
And a Star Wars Christmas special.
We don't talk
That
about
is
that
its
one.
own special hell.
What are the good Star Wars movies?
So I think we can have at least some consensus here. So maybe we should start with the consensus.
I feel like we can pretty easily agree that A New Hope and Empire are good.
You can also probably agree that Force Awakens is a good one.
And Force Awakens.
Is there anyone here who thinks Force Awakens was bad? Because I will leap through the computer and fight you.
I kind of want to say it just to like see that happen, but it would be dishonest.
But I feel like those are unambiguously good movies.
Yeah, I'm on board with those 3.
Which leads us into the following statement that the prequels are not good movies.
There's There's an argument to be made that episode 3 is pretty decent, but like I don't want to make it.
It's the only one I've not seen.
It's
I would
the best
definitely.
of the three, and I
It's
would
the
not
best
call it a
of-
good movie.
Yeah, it's the best of the prequel. Well, it's the best of the prequels, and it's like if I were willing to make the argument that episode 3 was good, then I would have to unequivocally say that Jedi was good. And
Yeah.
like I wouldn't be able to make a criticism of Jedi if I accepted that 3 was good, which is why I'm not going to make the argument. I think Jedi has and you know, I don't think Jedi is necessarily a very good movie. I think it's got a bunch of really cool stuff in it.
Well, and I think part of the problem too is, like, for me personally, it has been so long since I have seen a non-special edition version of a movie that maybe I'm being harsher on Jedi than I really should.
This is fair. Come to think of it, because the last time
Because a
saw
lot
Jedi
of my negative feelings about Jedi
is it's
are
awful.
from the prequels. I'm not prequels, but the
From the
special
special
edition.
Yeah,
Because they
all
added a bunch, and one of the biggest problems with Jedi is its pacing.
Yeah,
and
so much extra unnecessary stuff in Jabba's palace.
Yeah, which is
In the special edition, add even more of that.
Yes.
God,
Yeah.
yes. There's like
Yeah.
a whole additional song with unnecessary CGI, and keep it away.
Yeah, the special and to be fair, the last time I saw Jedi, it was a special edition, and the pacing was absolutely terrible.
I mean, even so, Jedi is one of my favorites, and I still kind of hate the special edition. There's a lot of changes and things that annoy the heck out of me. So that is
If we go
fair.
with the initial edit, I'm happy to say Jedi is a good movie.
All right.
I
Okay.
feel a lot better about that.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
yeah.
with you on that. Of the original 3, I think Jedi was the most harmed by the special edition changes.
Yeah, it was.
100% agree
Well,
with that. Well,
That also shot first.
I just don't care about that as much as like a lot of people.
Yeah,
do.
I don't think that necessarily harmed the movie for it didn't directly affect how good that movie was. It affects the overall arc of Han Solo's character, but that's a separate thing.
I feel like Empire was probably the one that was least scathed by the special editions.
Yeah, like I'm having trouble thinking of any real huge changes that weren't
Little-
just cleaning up stuff.
Yeah,
in
clean up
Empire.
in Cloud City, lots of extra. I actually think Empire got the most out of it in that
Yeah.
almost everything they added in the special editions in Empire were good because they're almost all in Cloud City.
Yeah,
And
and
they
well, that
all-
and cleaning up the effects on Hoth during the battle.
Well, and
Yeah.
so what's
They
stupid
added
about
the
that,
additional where you actually see
is-
it, that wasn't needed.
on Hoth, you still have transparent snow speeders, even
There's-
after the effects fix.
There's a bunch of things like that I just didn't understand why they didn't fix them. The lightsabers during Vader and Obi-Wan's battle
Exactly.
duel in the first movie, why didn't they fix them?
What do you like? I guess I'm not sure what you're talking about.
You can, if you're watching the first movie during Obi-Wan and Vader's duel, anytime Obi-Wan's lightsaber is pointed directly at the camera or close to it, it is entirely obvious that he has a stick with a handle.
Ah,
Like
You
the-
see it as a flash, and what you're seeing is the reflective tape.
Mm-hmm. And for and that's something that they could have easily fixed with digital effects, gone in and just add a digital blade there, but they didn't.
I mean, a digital rotoscoped blade would probably have been the easiest thing to do, period, of any of the fixes that they made. And I don't know why they didn't do it. But anyway, if we're talking original edits, I would say we have 4 good Star Wars films.
I would also say this.
I can go with that.
Now, here's where things probably get a little dicey is what are good Star Wars games?
All the TIE Fighter / X-Wing games.
Yeah,
I could go there.
So that's
man.
4, 5?
Here we go. This is awesome. Thanks, Wikipedia. Here's a list of Star Wars games. That's not a really long scroll that I just did there, huh?
There are a lot of Star Wars games.
There are a lot of Star Wars games.
So, here's where I get caught up, and this is what I was having trouble with thinking about it this week. Is like there are certain games that I love and have a lot of nostalgia for, but if they were held up against today's standards, just would not cut the mustard.
It's also
that's
how they were when they came out. Yeah.
Well, okay. Here, the one I'm thinking of immediately is Dark Forces.
That's what I was thinking of too.
The story of Dark Forces I loved at the time, but it is told in a very ham-fisted way as compared to modern games.
Yeah.
This is true.
I don't think it's fair to keep things like that up to modern day standards all the time.
Yeah. I feel like you have to judge the games, based on when they came out.
What about Shadows of the Empire?
Shadows of the Empire was, as a good friend of mine said, the game of watching Dash Rendar's butt.
It's true.
It was a horrible game.
I played that game all the way through.
I did too. I actually liked it all the way through.
It is not by any means the worst Star Wars game, but it is not great.
No, it's not great.
Wait, so I'm gonna go and say worse. It was better than Super Star Wars.
Oh,
hey,
I like Super Star Wars.
Super Star Wars was goddamn amazing.
Super Star Wars everything. All three of those games were great.
Oh, they were freaking amazing. I had them all.
Yeah,
I still have them all.
On the Super Nintendo was my jam.
Super Empire Strikes Back.
I don't know how many hours I put into that game.
I did not when I was not a fan when I was younger.
Look,
Star Wars was fantastic.
I'm pretty sure we're gonna cut you.
No. If you want a bad Star Wars game, a legitimately bad Star Wars game, Masters of Teras Kasai. That is a bad Star Wars game.
That's a game I played way too much of.
I played the hell out of it,
but it was not a good game.
It was not good.
No.
It was, we very quickly realized that it was just, certain characters were incredibly broken.
Yes.
And, any lightsaber wielder just won.
Yes.
Right. So basically, here's the thing is, did you guys play Jedi Academy?
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah.
I love that game so much.
It was an amazing multiplayer experience. But that's all I wanted Masters of Teras Kasai or whatever to be. I wanted to basically lightsaber duel people in a fighting game.
No,
that's all I wanted.
It was a fighting game from like the Tekken era.
Yes, but not as well balanced as Tekken.
No.
No, you basically played Luke Skywalker and beat everyone.
Basically. I remember that exactly, in fact. That was all I did in that game.
I still played it because it was Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
Right? Yeah. Everything with X-Wing or TIE Fighter in the name, or Rogue Squadron. Pretty much all of those games are amazing.
There were a bunch of racing games which varied in quality from Episode 1 Racer, which is actually very good.
That was really good.
And Super Bombad Racing, which is very not.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm looking at this list. I am curious, has any of us ever played Star Wars by Atari?
Yes. I had it.
The old 2600 game? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
The old 2600 game was actually really good.
Yeah,
Empire Strikes Back was horrible.
That was really bad. Yeah. The original, the Atari Star Wars was really good.
Yeah.
I did not play the Famicom Star Wars, though.
I played all three of those. That's basically Super Star Wars was kind of based on those. The cool thing about the Nintendo Famicom ones is there were more styles of play. So like when you were on Tatooine, there was actually a point where you would be driving around in a speeder. So did you ever play the original Turtles game for the Nintendo that was kind of questionable?
The one where you played for a while and then you got to the damn level and gave up because
Yeah.
Well, it had
Sounds like
overworld sequences kind of like that.
Right.
But the actual side-scrolly bits were actually fair and reasonable, unlike that other game.
Fair enough. That's kind of cool, though.
Yeah, it was it was cool.
Yeah. But yeah, the Super Star Wars was based on the Nintendo Star Wars. It was basically the same game.
Do the arcade games count? Because they were really fun in the arcade.
Sure.
And total, like, I'm looking at Star Wars Arcade that came out on the arcade and the 32X, and it was delightful in the arcade. It was garbage on the 32X.
Well, I think the problem there is the 32X was garbage. I'm just saying, like, 32X as a whole was garbage.
So I have clearly not played enough Star Wars games.
The other two Star Wars games that I have played that I feel are not terribly good are the Rebel Assault games. They are rail shooters.
They are rail shooters.
Rebel Assault was dumbed down TIE Fighter.
Yeah. It was. So Rebel Assault was the first video game I ever played. There is a soft spot in my heart for Rebel Assault.
It's understandable.
I guess to be fair, it was the first, like, non-shareware game I played. I played a lot of shareware games before Rebel Assault, but Rebel Assault was the first, like, real deal video game that I played, which I realize is sort of a stretch. There's a soft spot in my heart for the Rebel Assault series, even though I will admit they're not good games.
Two games that I feel like are just unequivocally good are Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Knights of the Old Republic 2 with its additional content is as good as the first one.
I feel like I'm the only person here who still has not played them. I own them both, and still, even after we've talked about this, I still haven't played them.
They're
pretty great.
They're great. They're rough.
They're old
rough now. Like they definitely are showing their age in a real way. But
I mean, KOTOR is based on the Star Wars D20 system.
Yeah. When I saw the prequels and Star Wars broke my heart, what kept me going was Knights of the Old Republic.
Wow, and that setting in general.
Yeah.
Like that was where I put my heart and soul. I am now living 4,000 years in the past, or however, or 40,000 years in the past, or however long it is.
Yeah, that was when I first got that game, I actually got it for Xbox, and I think I played it. It took me 50 hours to beat, and I played it in a single weekend. I played that game a lot this week.
Really
it
good.
Tells an amazing story too. Like it's
I remember with my parents when I was growing up. I was like whenever KOTOR 2 came out. So I don't know how old I was. KOTOR 2 had just come out, and my parents had wanted to do. They had this idea that we were going to go vacation on a boat for a week. We were just on a boat. And I loaded up KOTOR 2 on my laptop and spent so much time sitting on this boat playing KOTOR 2. And it's like one of the... And I remember both my parents were like, you must have hated this vacation. You were bored playing computer games the whole time. I'm like, no, this was like one of the... It's like one of the vacations that I remember so fondly from my childhood was like sitting on a boat playing Star Wars.
That sounds amazing.
It was so awesome. And they're like, well, but you didn't like swim or like
this
fish
was
or anything. I'm like, no, I had so much fun. It was great. I loved it. I was on a boat playing Star Wars. Battlefront was a great series.
The Battlefront series is fantastic.
Up until the latest one. I cannot say that the latest Battlefront is actually a good game.
It's like right on the edge. It's so close. If it had a single-player co-op campaign, it would be amazing. I say that about a lot of games.
It's
my biggest
problem
with the latest Battlefront is that it's basically just a Battlefield game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so was the last one, but it was a lot more open and...
Well, and the problem with Battlefront is there's been some serious balance problems.
Yeah.
Like anyone that basically is wielding what was essentially Han Solo's pistol is ruling the map, or was ruling the map. I don't know if they fixed that problem, but
do we want to say that Star Wars Galaxies was a good game?
I am torn.
Right?
I loved Galaxies. I loved the hell out of Galaxies.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if it was a good...
It never lived up to its promise.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of games that are good that don't live up to their promises. Many of them are made by Peter Molyneux.
Yeah.
I love the concept of Star Wars Galaxies. I just never actually enjoyed playing it.
It's like I love Star Wars Galaxies to death, but I don't actually think it was necessarily a good game.
I think it was good at what it was trying to do.
That's fair. It was a terrible Star Wars game.
Yes.
But it was an interesting and really cool game that I hope we see again ever. Force Unleashed 2 was terrible, but I really liked The Force Unleashed. Minus, like, one stupid enemy in it. But I thought that game was a ton of fun.
The game is a lot of fun.
Hurling TIE fighters is fun.
Yeah. Every Lego Star Wars everything is amazing. I love this.
Yeah. So was Lego Star Wars like the first of that style of Lego game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was. Okay, I thought
Yep.
so. I
That's where
knew
they
it
started.
was very early, and it set up this whole basically genre of game.
Lego games.
Yeah.
And-
Lego
and
everything.
They're amazing.
They're
Like
so
everyone
much
I've
fun.
played is fun. Like
Yeah.
they're kind of boring on one level because they're basically exactly the same gameplay, but they're just fun.
They're cute and clever.
Yeah.
And they don't take themselves seriously.
And Lego Star Wars may still have the best lightsaber combat of any Star Wars game.
It's true. Yeah, true.
It's competing against Jedi Academy there.
Yeah, Jedi Academy was really good.
It was so good. Like that was for a long time. That was probably my favorite multiplayer game to play.
I never played Galactic Battlegrounds.
Was that the RTS? Yes.
Empire at War was a different RTS. I did play Empire at War, and it was pretty good.
There was a
Galactic
4X.
Galactic Battlegrounds was the one that used the Age of Empires engine.
That's right.
Which one was the 4X game? It was horrible.
I think that was Galactic Battlegrounds.
Okay, yeah, that was the one I think I hated. And I hated it for a stupid reason.
Empire at War. But I actually liked Empire. Empire at War was the 4X one.
Okay.
Galactic Battlegrounds is the one that I played, and it was I remember it as not bad, but
The one I'm thinking
I don't know
of
if I trust myself.
The one I'm thinking of I hated for a stupid reason because units were not in scale.
Yes, that's Empire at War.
Okay, yeah, because like a TIE fighter was the same size as a Mon Calamari cruiser.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's just not appropriate.
Yeah, it drove me
It was a fun
insane.
game. There's a lot of Star Wars pinball.
Oh yeah.
And I've played
Those are
almost none of it.
really
they
good.
Okay.
If it's the ones that are available on the PS4, that's the I forget what the base game is called, but there's like a lot of what
Zen Pinball 2, apparently.
Yeah. It's really good. Like the cabinets that you can get on the PS4 are really good.
No, Bell, you're thinking of Rebellion. That's the 4X one.
Okay, yes, it was total trash.
I did not like that one. I liked Empire at War. I was like, I don't remember Empire at War having a scale problem. I mean, it wasn't like perfect, but it certainly wasn't TIE Fighter equals Mon Calamari cruiser.
Yeah, because if I'm remembering correctly, it may have used like a variant of the Panzer General engine or something. So it was basically like a card-based game. And what I mean by card is like this is a marker card that represents a unit.
Yeah, cards.
Let's see. We talked about Shadows of the Empire. Masters of Terrascasi. Yoda Stories was bad.
Yeah.
Trilogy Arcade was really cool.
Okay, stupid game that I loved playing was a Windows 95 game that was like Star Wars Desktop or something like that.
I don't even know that one.
Yeah, it was like these cute little chibi Star Wars figures, and it was a windowed application, and it gave you just like a random layout, and you had to find stuff.
That sounds like Yoda Stories.
Really, I loved Yoda Stories. If that was what it was,
Maybe. No, Yoda Stories was like an adventure game.
Yoda Stories was the same thing as Indiana Jones and his desktop adventures, and it was this like procedurally generated levels.
Okay, I loved it.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
tried to find some things.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily a good game, but I loved it. I played the hell out of it.
Seeing that it's 1997 means that it was exactly at the time where I wanted my games to be serious, and so I probably didn't enjoy it because
It's definitely not Yoda Stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a cutesy little blow off, run around for 15 minutes and complete a mission.
Yep, I remember that.
I liked the Indiana Jones one too.
Did any of you ever play Star Wars Bounty Hunter? I never did. Is it
No.
any good?
I did. I don't remember it very well, but I remember it was kind of fun.
Wasn't it on the PlayStation or was it
Yeah.
PS2?
PS2. And the GameCube, apparently.
Like, it was neat because if you liked playing as a Mandalorian, it was pretty fun. I remember I thought it was kind of a neat game, but like it didn't have lightsabers, so I got bored.
I think by the time it came out, I had decided that Jango Fett was dumb, and I didn't want to be him, so boo on that.
You decided
I'm not
who was dumb?
Jango Fett.
Oh,
Who was the main character in Star Wars Bounty Hunter.
got it.
I still kind of think that Jango Fett is dumb.
Yeah.
I really liked Republic Commando.
Yeah, I've heard lots of good stuff about Republic Commando. I never
It was
played
in
it
the
either.
It was in the it came out in the list in like that mid 2000s. We're gonna release first person shooters of everything,
Yeah.
and like shockingly, some ones that you never would have expected were to be good were actually good, like Republic Commando and the Star Trek one.
Man, the Star Trek one was actually really good. The one that was
Right?
based on the Quake 3 engine.
Yeah, it was like play Star Trek on the Quake 3 engine. It was,
Elite Forces.
yeah, Elite Forces. Yeah, and I was like,
Yeah,
wait, what?
That was one of those that was like, how does that even work?
Why is this game?
It was amazing. Like, it was amazing in the same way that Jedi Academy was amazing, where you basically, like, no one in that game was a major officer or anything. You just got to become this person on a mission.
Yeah, you were a security team on a Star Trek spaceship. You were the away team for captains that didn't do stupid shit and beam over to planets themselves.
And I vaguely remember it had some really interesting game modes, too.
Yeah. It had the, if I remember correctly, was that the game with the collateral damage mode? Where it was like, a big part of your score and your success was like not causing collateral damage? So you
Yeah,
had to be
yeah, I think so.
Really careful.
I want to say, I don't know if this was Elite Forces 1 or Elite Forces 2, whichever one was the Borg-based one, but I want to say it may have had an early asymmetrical multiplayer.
I believe it. It's the right time period for that.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I heard some really sad figures this week. God, I'm drawing a blank on the name of the game. The monster asymmetrical game. Evolve, yeah. You gonna take a wild guess at what the daily concurrency is on their servers?
Ooh.
500 players.
That is not good.
No.
Anyway, what's our tally for good Star Wars games versus bad Star Wars games so far?
So far we haven't really even named off that many unequivocally bad Star Wars games.
Well, there's
Oh,
at
there's
least
a
one
There's a
more
few.
that's unequivocally bad.
We're sitting at about 60%
Yeah.
good to bad.
We have not yet mentioned Kinect Star Wars.
Yeah, that's gonna skew that a little bit.
The game which gave us the Galactic Dance Off, and I'm Han Solo.
There are a lot of Star Wars games, and there are a lot I've never, like...
Oh, right! Did anybody play Star Wars Demolition?
No.
Is this like
No.
Okay, so they took Twisted Metal and gave it a Star Wars skin. That's Star Wars Demolition. And
That's hilarious.
I'll be honest, I actually had a lot of fun with it.
That could actually be fun. Dumb, but
It
fun.
was super dumb. No, it was. Let's not pretend it wasn't dumb. It was ultra stupid dumb. But
There were a lot of games like that on the PlayStation. Like, I'm going to reskin this other thing and make it the Star Wars version or some other property version.
yep. Oh, it was the Vigilante 8 engine.
Wikipedia says it had got a mixed reception.
I believe
And
that.
yeah, I'd never heard of this game before.
No, it's a shockingly stupid premise, but it's actually kind of a fun game.
Well, it's like, what was it? The Crash Bandicoot racing game that was the ripoff of Mario Kart?
Yep.
That was,
Was
actually really good.
It was a really good
Yeah.
game. Like, it was
Really
fun. It had a lot of stuff that Mario Kart didn't have.
I'm so sad that 1313 was canceled.
Yeah.
I don't get that sad when games we know almost nothing about other than a trailer get canceled.
Man, the
Fair.
premise that was leaked about that was so awesome.
Just the trailer, really.
No, like there was some
No, there
article
was
that I was reading.
There were a couple of interviews that leaked,
They leaked
and then
the
there
actual-
was a whole bunch of the big concept art and premise
Yeah.
film.
Yeah, the basic
I remember
play
seeing
is
that.
going to be Boba Fett in the, Coruscant Undercity, which
Right. You
sounds
basically
super awesome.
him going undercover without his armor.
Has anyone ever played any of the Game Boy Advanced games?
I haven't. There's a lot of them.
Actually, I haven't. No.
No, I haven't either.
Honestly, it and the mobile games are a huge area that I've just not touched.
It's a huge amount of stuff. There's actually probably as many Game Boy and mobile titles as there are all of the other ones.
Yeah.
Well,
I tried to play Tiny Death Star once, but they had killed it.
Oh,
honestly, like
they've killed that? That's sad.
Yeah, Tiny Death Star is no more.
I played that for quite a while, actually. It was very, very quaint.
Yeah, it's not just no more. It's Disney pulled the app and like didn't bother to tell the developers first.
there were two games that they pulled at the same time, and I forget what they were, but they were both Star Wars related.
Yeah.
And it was right before the release of Uprising.
Yeah, it was basically Disney, wanting to take Star Wars in a different direction. Apparently, the developer was not happy because it was like bringing in a whole lot of revenue.
You know what the first Star Wars game I ever played was? Star Wars Monopoly.
This is probably also true for me. Well, not the first game, but it's definitely like one of the Star Wars games that I think of like outside of, because I've played a lot less of the Star Wars video games than you guys
If we're going
have.
outside of video games, like the West End Star Wars RPG, maybe.
Yeah.
This
my
is
first
a
Star
video
Wars game.
Monopoly Star Wars was a video game.
Really?
Really?
Yes. This was like the first Star Wars video game I ever played. It wouldn't run on my PC. We had to go out and upgrade it.
Wow.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Yup. I was super excited too. I was going to play some Star Wars Monopoly.
It's like two of your favorite things.
Exactly.
Was it all you ever hoped it would be?
All of the little spaces had like FMV in the game.
Wow.
Yup.
That tells me what era it's from.
Right.
Yeah.
1992.
Yep.
We're still so totally in love with the fact that, CD-ROMs are a thing.
Full motion video, it's the best thing ever. No one will ever get tired of this.
It was awesome. Oh, wait. Was it? I thought it was 92. Oh, I'm seeing 97, but I might be wrong.
I feel like you could pretty much chart like the whole history of video games just through Star Wars games.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Certainly starting with the Atari, yeah.
I mean, they hit,
before the
they hit
Atari,
most of the big genres. The
arcade
main one that's
stuff too.
the main genre that's really missing from Star Wars games is there was never really a Star Wars adventure game, which is weird since LucasArts made like the best adventure games.
Yeah, you'd think that. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, I think they kept the adventure game people and the Star Wars game people like away from each
Physically
other,
separated.
so they wouldn't taint each other or something. I don't know.
I mean, unless you count Rebel Assault as a point-and-click game.
I don't.
Hey, Telltale. Hint, hint. This is a good thing. You could totally, maybe get that license and make a Star Wars adventure game.
Good luck with that.
Look, Telltale has a proven track record now. Like, I think they could probably get that license.
Yeah, it's weird because they did a couple of Indiana Jones adventure games that were really good.
Fate of Atlantis was amazing.
The problem is EA still has the license for Star Wars video games.
Mm-hmm.
So good luck getting it. This is also why you can't get electronic copies of the most recent Star Wars RPG, because they would be electronic games.
Ugh.
Of course they would.
God.
Gross.
That's dumb.
Yes, I agree.
In case you'd forgotten that EA is evil, here's your reminder.
Okay, so you were saying we're running about 60% good, 40% bad.
I think there's a lot we just don't know still. Like, well, it's easy.
True.
Well, it's easy to watch all of the Star Wars movies. The game universe is kind of gigantic.
Yeah.
Especially if you count all of the various mobile games and handheld games and like the edutainment games. And
It's
there was a
interesting.
lot of time between
Yoda
that
teaches
first
typing.
and that fourth movie.
Oh, okay. So here's an interesting question. What is the best Star Wars story? Is it a movie? Is it a game?
Man.
that's a hard one.
The unfortunate part is that long silence is going to get edited out
Yeah.
as we all think about what this might be.
Yeah, right?
It's a very, very deep question.
So I have to say my favorite Star Wars story is the Dark Forces trilogy, which is neither a game or a movie.
No, it's a reason why the EU needs to get nuked.
Well, not Dark Forces, but the original Zahn trilogy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Also, I think I was thinking Dark Empire.
Yeah.
You were thinking,
No.
you were probably thinking Dark Empire.
Yeah, no,
Dark Empire was a good reason to nuke continuity.
Absolutely, I enjoyed it, but it was a bad storyline.
It was such a '90s comic.
So, I'm trying to decide if I feel like I want to say that KOTOR is the best Star Wars story.
That's my thought.
I would support that notion.
I'm right. I'm
KOTOR is
right
really good.
there.
My personal favorite Star Wars story is the story of Knights of the Old Republic 1.
Yeah,
I feel like there's something to be said for A New Hope, even though it is
I agree.
a classic.
That's definitely gonna get my vote, I think. I mean,
And, like-
I've never played KOTOR, but I also I know that universe from from playing SWTOR, and I don't know, that universe is not really Star Wars to me. It's not quite Star Wars.
Yeah, it's so far removed from the original Star Wars universe that that to me as well, it feels like its own thing.
My thing is man, part of why it's so good is because of A New Hope. Because so much of A New Hope is suggesting at this older, better time, and KOTOR you kind of get to explore that older, better time. But what's really hard for me is trying to decide if I think I would have liked KOTOR as much if I hadn't watched A New Hope.
Yeah,
but
it
really is between those two for me.
Part of me wants to try and make a case for the original Marvel Star Wars comics because there is some really, really good stuff in those, but there's also some really, really silly stuff in those. So I think you have to kind of take it as a whole.
The green bunny with the bionic ears.
Yes, Jackson, and the Jedi Knight Don Juan Quixote.
Wow.
Spoilers: he was not actually a Jedi Knight.
Wow.
But he thought he was, and he was fantastic. He had the best mustache.
Oh man, that just makes me think of Gus Tuno, who I love.
I love Gus Tuna.
Fear my Jedi powers. Yeah, SWTOR had some interesting stuff too. Are we gonna count that as a good Star Wars game?
I count it as a good Star Wars game. It's got some on the whole.
It is now, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was not.
I would say it's a good Star Wars game.
Yeah. I mean, even when it had major problems,
garbage.
The story was not where the problems were.
Yeah.
That's very, very true. Okay.
Well, I mean, the parts of the game that they actually wanted you to play were quite good. It's a raid game with garbage.
But hey, most people didn't get there anyway.
And they don't really do it anymore. Now it's all story, which I'm okay with.
Well, so I feel like basically where we're ending up here is that we don't really have enough information to make a decision, but that regardless of what medium we are talking about, there are definitely winners and losers when it comes to Star Wars.
And it seems from the ones that at least that we've had experience with that there's about a 60% positive.
Yeah, I mean
overall.
I think it's about
fairly even.
About the same.
Yeah.
And there's more good than bad. That's actually, having gone through it, that's actually really gratifying to think about because I didn't actually think that was going to be the case.
I mean, and even if you're talking about the novelization, which is the worst, it feels like it was the worst case as far as the expanded universe stuff that you want nuked from orbit. I'd have to say most of the novels I've read have been good. There's just been a handful that have been horrible.
I suspect I would disagree.
I agree with that sound that Thalen made.
I also think the entire New Order Yuzhen Vong story arc was a terrible, terrible travesty. And that's nearly 20 books.
Well, those things don't exist.
I liked.
It's not actually a thing.
I will say, I really like Star Wars stories, the expanded universe Star Wars stories that were not about the original trilogy cast. P.S. There's way too few of them.
There are not many. Corran Horn, books about Corran Horn are the main ones that come to mind, and they were
Isn't he
mostly
like
really good.
somebody's son?
If he is, that's something that they bolted on like after I ceased reading the books.
Oh, okay.
He was a member of Corsac who like became an X-wing pilot.
I might be confusing him for somebody else with a kind of bizarre name and a 4-letter surname.
He was the lead character of the X-wing books.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, like legitimately good Star Wars books are limited to the ones by Zahn, the ones by Kevin J. Anderson, and the old Han Solo and Lando Calrissian books. That's basically it.
I found some decent Old Republic stories, and I liked Lost Souls. Lost Song? Lost
Stars.
Lost Stars. I knew it was a plural something.
Lost Stars was amazing.
That was a really good book. I can't read any of the other ones because I've heard that's the best one, and none of the rest are anywhere close to as good.
I liked the compilation books, like the Tales of the Bounty Hunters and Tales from the Cantina, and
the Tales books were there were some stories in those that were very silly, but there were a bunch that were really good. So they are on the whole worth your time. Yeah.
Especially the Bounty Hunter one, because it fleshes out kind of the backstory of a lot of the bounty hunters that only, were on screen for a few seconds.
Yeah, you get to learn about the IG-88 and his brothers, and how one of them was inside the second Death Star when it blew up and was about to take it over.
And the Dengar story was pretty good. I mean, it's like that was an action figure I loved, but yeah, I knew nothing about him.
Well, that's one of the things about Star Wars is that every single character ends up having to have a complicated backstory and connections to other characters.
Right.
No matter how small the part in the movies was.
The universe is huge, but apparently everyone knows everyone.
Did you see? Did we talk? I don't know if we talked about this last week. Did anybody see the thing where Abrams said that Rey's parents do not appear in Episode 7?
I did not see that.
Yeah,
but
evidently Rey's parents do not appear in Episode 7.
Works for me.
I'm super excited by that.
I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to remember that J.J. Abrams has lied to us before, but
well, he also has said that Rey's parents have not been met in any of the movies.
I am 100% behind that.
And that basically ruled out a lot of people, but that still left the door open to the whole child of Obi-Wan.
Wouldn't it just be child of Obi-Wan?
No, it would have to be a general Obi-Wan.
Oh, right. Child of a child, yeah.
I still think Qui-Gon's more likely. Qui-Gon seems the type that would have a bunch of kids scattered around the galaxy.
I still sort of hope she's just some rando, but...
Yeah, I don't think she'll be a rando. I just don't think that's a thing. But...
It would feel weirdly un-Star Wars if she was just completely random.
That's fair.
Not whether or not I actually approve of this, it would feel actually kind of odd for Star Wars.
Well, and that doesn't entirely rule out the possibility that she's a clone, because if her mother was a test tube and her father was a knife, well, neither of them have appeared in any of the movies.
Wow.
Her mom is a container of blue milk. Yeah, I feel like we're winding down, and we probably should because we've recorded for a while.
Yeah.
I would mostly be really curious to find out if any of the things that we pegged as unequivocally bad, some of our listeners just love.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that there are lots of
something.
people who actually do love the prequels.
Yeah, they're wrong, but I'm sure
they're wrong. They should feel bad, but that's the thing.
There are totally some people I know, and granted, they're all fairly young.
Yes,
but they have completely legitimate reasons for liking the trilogy, the original, the prequel trilogy, and I've heard a couple of people in late teens, early 20s give really, really stirring defenses of the prequels.
So, okay, Brian Posehn, the person that people keep saying I look like, has a hilarious rant where he says that Star Wars is his Vietnam. It's the thing that if he starts talking about it, he just breaks down into unintelligible rants.
I know a guy. I used to work with a guy like that.
So you should totally, like, everyone that's listening to this should totally go onto YouTube and look that up because it's hilarious. And he talks about how that the prequels are going to be the thing that his kid has to hide from him. It's like he's not going to care about drug use or premarital sex because he'll be cool with that. But one day,
prequels.
But one day, his kid's gonna come home and go, you know, Mom, I was over at Billy's house and he watched Phantom Menace and it wasn't that bad of a movie. And my wife will go, God damn it, shut your mouth! Your father will leave us.
You will be disowned.
You can tell no one.
It's great. It's great. And what's funny is that only adds to the whole, you know, Brian Posehn and I are like doppelgangers thing, because like I could see myself making that same rant at some point in the past, because the prequels broke my heart.
Yep.
But all has been mended, and Disney is happy for us to dump our wallets straight into their coffers. So
I'm
all
happy
is
to
right
dump
with
my
the
wallet.
world.
I'm totally happy to dump my wallet straight into Disney's coffer. If this is the caliber of Star Wars they're going to give me.
Yep. They keep going the way they are. They can have my money.
This is a tangential discussion that we don't really need to get into right now, but I was shocked the other day to realize how many of the things I love are controlled by Disney.
Yeah, don't think
scary.
about it too much. It's really disturbing.
I'm
All
a
those
business
Miramax
student.
movies that I love, those are all Disney.
I'm a business student. I've been researching Disney for the last several months. Their tentacles go deep and long.
The Empire of the Mouse is like Illuminati-like.
It's crazy. Did you like Pulp Fiction?
Yup. But anyway, okay, let's wrap things up. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the show, and I would love to hear commentary from our listeners. If you agree with us, if you disagree with us, what are your best Star Wars games?
I want to know what other people think the best Star Wars story is.
Yeah.
Anyway, we will be recording the Gone Home show next week.
Hooray!
So if you're playing along,
playing it, and I already started crying, so
Yep,
it'll be good.
my goal tomorrow is to play through it, or come close to playing through it.
You can probably play through it.
Anyway, well, hopefully you had a good night, and we will see you again next week for that show. Good night!
Good night.
See you.
Good night.
Good night.
Later.